Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 3. So just quickly before I get into anything, we may have hit 100k by the time this video goes up. I have no idea. We might not have, we might be just shy of it. But I'll wait till tomorrow on my next video before I say thank you for it, because I don't want to be an idiot, say thank you for it when we're not actually at it yet, so yeah. So last weekend at Pallyfest in Los Angeles, obviously America, the Flash cast and producers were among a panel with the other CWDC TV shows of Arrow, Supergirl, and of course, Legends of Tomorrow. As you would know if you watched my video from last weekend, they announced two relatively big things in regards to the Flash. The first one was the title for episode 19 of this season, as well as a tease of what would be going down within that episode. I will leave the link to that video in the description below if you do want to go check it out. The second big thing that they announced actually had to do with the next season of The Flash, obviously that being season 4. Which is pretty cool, seeing they rarely talk about the next season until the current season has wrapped up. This announcement that had to do with season 4 was in regards to the villain for the season. They announced that the villain for The Flash Season 4 would in fact be a non-speedster. Throughout Seasons 1, 2, and now 3, we have had a speedster big bad. Those three being Reverse Flash, Zoom, and now of course Savitar this season. Season 1 needed Reverse Flash to be the introductory villain for Barry, and Season 3 needed a speedster due to Flashpoint being such a focus. Season 2, I guess, didn't necessarily have to involve a speedster as the big bad, but I personally enjoyed Zoom, so I was all for what they did in that season. But enough about previous big bads from previous seasons of The Flash. Who could Barry be facing up against in Season 4? Who is a non-speedster who could pose so big of a threat to The Flash and Central City like the previous three speedster main villains? Well, that's obviously what I'm going to go over for the rest of the video. Now, I actually only have two options that I really personally think could happen. But if you do feel like you have another option as to who the villain could be, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. I'm very interested to see what everyone has to say. Or you can just leave your feedback on my options. While you're there, if you do want to leave a like on the video just to show your support, it'd be awesome as well. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. The first option is the one I can see happening the most, and that is the Rogues. Now, seeing that I think it is the most likely option to happen, that means I think it would be pretty awesome, right? Of course, but I will go into detail why that is. To start off though, even though everyone watching this video may love the Flash TV show, some of you may not know much about the Rogues or possibly not know anything at all about them. Which is fine, we will just quickly go over the basics of the Rogues first. The Rogues are a team or group made up of enemies of the Flash, and it's usually led by a little character you may have heard of, known as Captain Cold. The Flash's Rogues Gallery is probably like the third most well known in all of comics, only behind Batman and Spider-Man. You may think different, but that's how I see it. Some things that definitely set them apart from other Rogues Galleries is that the characters together have great chemistry, humour, and they are just like all round pretty damn interesting. The biggest thing setting them apart though would have to be the fact that the Rogues have their own moral code, which gives them almost like a sense of honour. The Rogues do not kill unless it is seen as absolutely necessary, which is pretty rare amongst villains. Along with that, they aren't a team trying to, kill the Flash and take over the world or take over Central City. They are pretty much sweet with what they are generally doing at the time, which is usually robbing banks or like similar establishments to that. But even with this moral code of theirs, the Rogues still pose as a constant threat of danger against the Flash. But who actually are the Rogues? Sure, they are a group of Flash enemies, but which villains that we have seen on the show are part of the Rogues? Well, let's go through them all. Heads up, some of them appeared on Arrow, so I will leave those ones until last and, point out when I'm mentioning the Rogues that appeared on Arrow. So first up, the Flash Rogues that appeared on The Flash are Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Gorilla Grodd, Pied Piper, Weather Wizard, Trickster, both of them, the Top, Heatwave, Golden Glider, Rainbow Raider, Tar Pit, Magenta, Plunder, Girder, and a new rogue will be met on this week's episode of The Flash, and that is Abra Kadabra. And the rogues that showed up in Arrow were Captain Boomerang, Double Down, and Murmur. Now, Captain Boomerang did appear in the Flash Arrow crossover in the Flash Season 1 and Arrow Season 3, but he only appeared in the Arrow episodes, if I'm correct, and I'm 99% sure I am correct on that. So at this moment, he's technically seen as an Arrow villain, but in the comics, he's a Flash villain, so yeah. Now, there is only one rogue, from my knowledge, that is now left to be introduced on the show, seeing that Abra Kadabra is about to be introduced this week, and that is Blacksmith. Now, I feel if they did the rogues next season, they would introduce Blacksmith and have her story be the centerpiece of the rogue storyline, with a group of like 4, maybe 5 other rogues built around her to cause some trouble in Central City. I don't necessarily think they will use her exact origin from the comics because it just involves other characters, which might be just too much. But we have seen stuff to do with weapon trafficking on the show before, especially this season of The Flash, and that is stuff that is involved around her stories, so they could tie that into the story on the TV show if they wanted to. In regards to the other members of the Rogues that could be built around Blacksmith, personally, I would put Weather Wizard, a version of the Trickster. Like, it would be hard as hell to get Mark Hamill back to play a version of the Trickster, but if they could, to join towards the end, for the last handful of episodes, it would be pretty damn sick. Golden Glider, otherwise known as Leonard Snart's sister, and she could be on there for revenge for her brother's death. She may blame the Flash, even though it wasn't him, but she might just blame him for it. And my final choice would be Captain Cold, but he is dead at this time, and we have no clue if he will be brought back on Legends of Tomorrow or not. So I'm going to assume he won't be available, so I'm going to chuck a non-rogue villain into this version of the Rogues on TV, just to, add some spice, and that is Killer Frost. She would obviously add the cool factor void left by Captain Cold, and would make the battle between the Rogues and the Flash and Team Flash even more personal. They could even set up herself going rogue right at the end of this season, like going Killer Frost. Maybe, the last episode and she just leaves and, I don't know what the last scene would be with her if they're going to do this, but something that sort of hints at the Rogues forming. Now, the reason I put those in there is because they're all pretty different. No one's too similar, so you don't want too many similar Rogues together, especially if you're doing like a smaller group. You want them to all have their different abilities and their different traits that are an advantage to the team. And I think that lineup definitely has some personality and different traits and specialties to it, which I think would be a threat to the Flash. Now, I do think they may make the Rogues a bit more evil or a bit more dangerous just for entertainment purposes and just to make themselves more threatening, but still show the same morals that we are used to seeing from them. Now, I know I've spent a lot of time on the Rogues, but I sort of had to, but now onto the second choice, which, as you would have been able to tell from the thumbnail, is Cobalt Blue, but, Eddie Thawne. Cobalt Blue in the comics is otherwise known as Malcolm Thawne, who is the twin brother of Barry Allen. Unfortunately, a woman was giving birth, and due to a drunk doctor, her baby strangled on the umbilical cord. So Nora, Barry's mother, was giving birth at the same hospital and gave birth to twins, and the doctor gave one of the twins to the other woman to cover his mistake, while telling Nora that the other baby, the one that the doctor gave to the other woman, was stillborn. So Malcolm later in life found out about Barry and grew envious after he didn't have the best upbringing, while Barry did. He was annoyed that he was given to this family who didn't really raise him correctly. He actually even kills the drunk doctor that, was drunk and killed the other baby by not, untangling his neck from the umbilical cord. So Malcolm went away and learnt many things and used a talisman that would allow him to absorb speed, among other things. In the comics, he actually takes the speed of Jay Garrick, which is pretty cool. Now, obviously, Eddie Thawne is Malcolm on the show, without actually being Barry's twin. We know that Barry has what Eddie essentially desires, as we saw in different parts throughout Season 1. Eobard Thawne is a distant descendant to Malcolm Thawne, just like he is to Eddie. Also, they look pretty damn similar as well. There are actually real reasons why the producers and the showrunners may choose to go with Cobalt Blue rather than another villain like the Rogues. Firstly, that major personal connection between Eddie Thawne and the other characters on the show, specifically, Barry and Iris. Secondly, it's a singular villain. It wouldn't have to deal with the multiple villains like the Rogues and avoid clutter. Thirdly, the backstory of how Eddie came back, not only to life, but also as his villain, would be insanely interesting. And lastly, his powers still involve speed, but he isn't technically a speedster. But through his ability to steal speed, he can in turn use that speed to heal himself, produce energy projectiles, or run at super speed like a speedster. So even though he can run fast at points, he isn't actually a full-on speedster. So there is a loophole in there for them to jump around the whole non-speeds to villain quote that they did at Pallyfest, while still have him use speed at points. Cobalt Blue has been heavily requested since the beginning of Season 2, so it would be cool if he finally came to the show now. I want both of these villains pretty much equally. I think the Rogues is probably more likely to happen, especially seeing the success of the Legion of Doom on Legends of Tomorrow this season. Like, that's basically a similar concept. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't dying to see Cobalt Blue as Eddie Thorne be the big bad for Season 4. It would be pretty damn awesome, and also a long time coming. But thanks for watching, guys. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like on it. Let me know in the comments section down below, what do you think of all of this? Is there a villain that you would like to see as the big bad that I did not even mention? Would you prefer the Rogues or Cobalt Blue? And would you add different Rogue members to the Rogues list that I had? Would you not have Weather Wizard and have Top? Or not have Golden Glider and have Mirror Master? Just leave what you think of all of that in the comments section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.